No matter if it is the vicious crashes that Tim Geiser and Maxime Renault had at the MXGP of Switzerland, or a candid chat with Jorge Prado, a little tidbit that came from RJ Hampshire, a blockbuster affair for the sport, or silly season news, it's all covered in this week's episode of The Hub, your one-stop shop for motocross news from around the world. But of course, we can't go any further without acknowledging the crushing blow that Jerry Robin suffered over the weekend. He had to get his T3 to T9 fused after a vicious crash in timed qualification in East Rutherford, and as of now is paralysed from the belly button down. There are countless ways that you can get involved to show your support or help Jerry out. Road to Recovery have a donation channel in place. There are countless auctions being set up. Justin Starling has his own initiatives running. So there are many ways that you can extend a hand, or at the very least, maybe head to his social media channels to offer a supportive comment. But if there's a ray of sunshine here, it's that his initial post on Instagram did seem to carry some positivity. So all we can do is hope that there's a miracle and there is some positivity on the horizon. But as I mentioned, either way, he's going to need a lot of support. So check out Vital MX for various ways to get involved and help Jerry Robin out. Of course, a well-known rider around the world for various things that he's accomplished in his career. Chance Hymas is okay after his East Rutherford crash in the main event. Of course, this is separate to the ghost ride he did in qualification. He went down hard in the main event and exited the track quite swiftly, but he is okay, and in fact he had a very long test day on outdoors this week. This has of course scuppered his title run, so he is now in full outdoor mode, although with a mudder on the horizon this weekend, maybe he can take another win and catapult himself back into title contention. Marcus Phelps is also okay to a degree after another hard crash in East Rutherford. He was knocked out for around a minute and has a herniated disc in his back, but it sounds as though he is intent on racing this weekend in Pittsburgh. Of course, there are various things that could happen to derail that or make it possible, so watch this space to see if the Dirt Bike Depot rider makes it to the starting line. I had an interesting chat with RJ Hampshire after the race, which you may have already seen on this YouTube channel. He hinted at the fact that his wrist is still giving him extreme problems, and a lot of that seems to come from the plate that's in there. Without saying it, he certainly insinuated that after Salt Lake City and after the 250 SX East Championship finale, he's going to make a plan with his team and doctors, and it sounds as though that could include getting the plate taken out as a matter of urgency and therefore causing him to miss Pro Motocross and his 450 MX debut.
We'll have a plan after Salt Lake. That's all I can really say right now. It's like, yeah, it's not good. I can leave it at that.
Of course, again, this is conjecture to a degree. Those who watched the interview will agree that it was quite apparent what he was hinting at, and things could change. That's still a couple of weeks away, but as of now, I would say that RJ Hampshire is doubtful for Pro Motocross. One thing that is not in doubt is his effectiveness in 250 SX East, because he is just 3 points down on Steph Hammaker with 2 races to go. What a championship. Speaking of interesting chats, I caught up with Jorge Prado at length over the weekend. He is back on the bike and had ridden twice by the time that we spoke. Things seem to be going well. I think he expected his shoulder to be a little further along than it is, but that will come with time. Of course, Prado hasn't had too many major injuries in his career, so the recovery process is foreign to him to a degree. He was quite optimistic about his chances outdoors, whilst being very aware of the challenges of a lack of practice, the travel, the heat, the new bike, the new tracks. Also, you can't ignore that. So he is aware, but I think that he has high hopes for himself. It will certainly be interesting, and we'll catch up with Prado in a more formal setting here shortly. Jumping across to the series that Prado departed from, the FIM Motocross World Championship, Tim Geiser had a horrific crash at the weekend, hitting a mound of dirt that was misplaced on the side of the track. He did suffer a dislocated shoulder in the crash, and it took more than 30 minutes for that to be put back in, which, as we all know, as fans of this sport, you have to become an expert in injuries. The longer a dislocated shoulder is is out, the more damage that can potentially be done. He's having further checks this week, but that certainly doesn't sound good. The official statements from both he and Honda HRC hint that he is fully set on preparing for the next Grand Prix, which is in 10 days' time now in Portugal. But as of right now, I would argue that is quite optimistic of them. The good news is that he does still have a 27-point lead in the championship, so he could potentially miss time, come back, and still take another world title. I would certainly be factoring that option into the equation if I was the management at Honda HRC, especially with how inconsistent Romain Febvre and Lucas Koenen can be. Maxime Renault was a title contender, but he is far removed from that position now. He had another horrid crash in Switzerland, going over the bars on a big tabletop. And fortunately, he did not break any bones, but he did acknowledge that after the events of the last month or so, he is battered, bruised, and truth be told, although there's no broken bones, some time off may do him good, because that is a man wounded right now. And as I say, his championship aspirations are dust at this point. As mentioned, the MXGP series has a weekend off coming up, but that does not mean that these riders will be inactive. There is a round of the Dutch Championship as well as various national series going on. The Dutch Masters will garner the most attention, with Jeffrey Hurlings, Romain Febvre, a smorgasbord of Grand Prix winners in attendance. So we'll be sure to share the results from that on the Hub and Vital MX. And then, of course, in America, we have Pittsburgh, round 15 of Monster Energy AMA Supercross. And I'm feeling optimistic because on Saturday and Sunday, a week away from the event, the weather forecast looked bleak, with a lot of rain calling for Friday and Saturday. Of course, as we know, if it rains Saturday, the track crew really can't do much to save the circuit. There's still a lot of rain in the area on those 2 days, but as of now, it seems like most of it will fall from Friday lunchtime to Saturday lunchtime. So what I'm thinking is that rather than Foxborough, we may end up with something similar to Philadelphia, which is, of course, quite okay and one that we'll happily accept as opposed to the alternative. That's going to continue to change, though, but I just wanted to point out that I'm certainly more optimistic than I was. And speaking of this weekend, April the 27th is fast approaching, and that's when Malcolm Stewart's movie on ESPN Plus will debut. Malcolm Stewart, number 27. The movie is titled Stewart 27, and releasing on April 27. You can see what they did there. But of course, check that out. It's produced by a non-moto company, so it will have a fairly different feel to it. But of course, we need to support the sport whenever it gets to a mainstream platform like that. So keep your eyes peeled for that when it drops. I'm sure that it will be well publicized on social media, but April the 27th is the release date. That's it for the Hub this week. Thank you for watching and listening. We will be back in 7 days' time to catch up on all that has happened in the world of motocross.